Older lady, do you work here? Me, no, I don't. I turn around, plug my AirPod back in my ear, and go about my business. Same lady comes closer to get my attention again. Me, yes. Taking AirPod out, and looking visibly annoyed. She blinks at me. Where are your rice cakes? I am amazed. Ask a Walmart employee, I don't work here. Oh, you don't? Yes, that's why I replied that I don't. Believe woman. When I, F26, was around 10 or so, my family and I took a trip to a museum that had a display on ancient Egypt, including actual mummies laid out in display cases. Me, being the history nerd I was absolutely ecstatic. I'd read dozens of books on ancient Egyptian history, studied the mythology, etc. I was over the moon to be able to see a real dead mummy. We'd been at the museum for about an hour, with me loving every second, when a group of school kids came through with their teacher. They were impressed with the mummy I was standing by, too, and started asking questions of their teacher who didn't know the answers. I did. The first words out of my mouth were, "Do you want to know how they embalmed them?" So, I spent the next half hour telling the kids everything I knew, from how they dried the body, to why they removed certain organs, to the ancient Egyptian belief in the afterlife. And they were eating it up. Afterwards, the teacher came up to me and said something like, "You're the youngest docent I've ever seen. You do work here, right?" And I said no. That I just loved ancient history, still do, and wanted to share everything I knew with people so they'd love ancient history, too. She looked really surprised for a second, then laughed and told me I'd done a really good job, and that I should consider a job at a museum in the future. Still my favorite memory from that trip. I do not, and have never, worked at a grocery store. I do go to the one near my house several times a week, though. An older gentleman approached me today to ask where the peanut butter was located. I knew this answer. I may not be getting paid, but I'll help out where I can. It's on aisle 6 or 7, near the condiments. I answered confidently, and the man was on his way. I looked at the app. It's on aisle 13. I'm so sorry, sir. Story is what I can remember of the event as it was decades ago. This is what happened to the best of my recollection. Back in the early 90s I was in secondary school, high school, in the UK, and I was pretty badly bullied. One of my bullies stole my school bag, unzipped it and threw it upside down into a garbage can. All my school books and other stuff inside was ruined. The school had to replace all my textbooks and workbooks, but as this was the 90s they didn't f all about the bullying. The school culture of the time was kids need to work this out for themselves and only stepped in when they were witness to any violence. This culture changed at the end of the 90s when several high-profile bullying stories, ending in the victim ending their own lives, and the backlash forced schools to change their policies on bullying. I was given some money, by my parents, to buy a French to English dictionary as my old one was unusable, as well as it stank of rotten food. On the way back home one day I walked into a store, the now-defunct store chain Woolworths, as they had a book sale on. I was looking in the book section for about 10 minutes when I found the last French dictionary and I could just about afford it. I then felt someone try to snatch it out of my hand from behind me and I quickly turned around to see a woman scowling at me. Now I was a big kid, starting puberty long before my friends, and I had a mustache at the age of 9. I couldn't fit into a standard school uniform. So instead my parents bought me a suit and we had the obvious school's badge stitched into the breast pocket of the blazer. I was also wearing a school tie as well as having a duffel bag, school bag, hanging from one shoulder. The employees and management all wore shirts, name tags and black trousers. I basically said, "What the hell, lady? I found this book first." And she just screamed at me incoherently at me for a few seconds before shouting, "You shouldn't be buying things while on the clock, and sale items should be sold to customers first." I looked at her for a few seconds, out of confusion, and said, "I don't work here." Well, she didn't like that and then pushed me in the chest with both hands, knocking me backwards over the stack of sale books, and I somersaulted backwards over them out of sight, landing at the other side of the sale display with half the display's books falling on top of me. The display was in the middle of an aisle. At that I think the manager was running over proclaiming what happened here. The Karen then screamed that I, the employee, assaulted her and tried to steal her book, which I was still holding laying on the floor face down. The manager said I was watching you from back there, pointing to the other side of the shop, and I could hear you screaming at this kid. The Karen said, "What kid?" I calmly stood up, from behind the display, brushed myself off and said, "I'm 13 years old. I'm a customer and," pointing at the Karen, "she just assaulted me by pushing me over these books." At this the woman looked like a deer in the headlights and bolted out the store not saying a word. The manager apologized and gave me the dictionary for free. I used the money my parents gave me to buy an art book. My mum was not pleased to have to sew my trousers, as tumbling over the stack of books ripped a pocket and part of my trouser leg down the seam. So this is a thing that happened today. I don't really know if this story really fits in this category, but I didn't know where to put it otherwise, and I really liked to share this story. This story isn't about some crazy Karen assuming I work somewhere I don't. It actually made me quite happy. So I work at this fast food chain with a huge yellow M at the roof as a manager, and a few of our trash cans in the kitchen were broken, so another manager asked me if I wanted to drive to a store to get 2 new ones. But I couldn't park near the store, so I had to park my car a bit further away. So I went to grab some trash cans and I was headed back to my car. This all in work clothes. So while I was walking back to my car, I walked across another store where they were doing some constructions and 2 women were having a smoke outside while I walked past them. So suddenly I hear, "Wait, there is a McDonald's here." It was actually like a 15-minute drive, so I explained that the McDonald's wasn't in that shopping center and I worked somewhere else. So the ladies asked me where my work was and they were sad that I didn't have any McDonald's with me. So I thought this was quite funny and drove back to work to finish my shift for like 2 more hours. And as soon as I was done, I was thinking about the 2 ladies, so I got them 2 boxes of 20 nuggets and drove back to their workplace, still in my work clothing. As soon as I walked across their store I saw them, so I shouted, "I've got a present for you." The moment they saw the bag in my hand they started to laugh and shout of excitement. They were so happy that I actually brought them some food. After that we had another little chat and they were so sincerely happy with the food I brought them. And after thanking me another 100 times I left them with their nuggets, having a huge smile on my face. This was a few hours ago and I still have the biggest smile on my face thinking about this little joke just because I was getting a trash can in my work clothes. Remember guys, it's all in the little gestures. So this one just happened and I literally have no idea why this happened, and it is a short one. So I was at a parking lot, walking back to my car. I was in a blue polo shirt and camouflage pants with groceries when this man ran up to me screaming about cars or something. I wasn't listening to him, I had a song playing. So I just walked to my car, put my grocery and got into my car. The is still screaming, and then he did the one thing I can't imagine someone sane would do. He threw a rock into a cop car. I got out and told him that he just broke a cop car. Guy asked me if I was a cop when suddenly shouting came, after looking at the source of the shouting, and he ran away. Apparently the cops were nearby and they weren't happy having their lunch break being disturbed by a moron.